Thank you very much. We can take our seats. I would like to request Umfundisi Umbuyazi, Bishop Umbuyazi, to come forward and render a prayer.
Let me take this opportunity to greet the Mayor, Baba, General Matonsi, and all people present. Let's read the word of God from Psalm 24, verse 1 to verse 3. The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness of it, the world and those who dwell in it. For he has founded it upon the seas and established it upon streams and rivers. Who may ascend unto the mountains of the Lord, and who may stand in his holy place? He who has clean hands and pure heart, who has lifted up his soul toward his foe, hasn't lifted his soul toward his false, nor swear deceitfully. The Lord owns everything that we see, that we hear about. The Lord controls the minds of people. In the spiritual crime prevention, we say, God first, less crime. It's possible that by 2030, Durban will be a livable place. But it calls for the individuals and different forums, different teams, different departments to come together and fight the scourge. It's possible. We lift God high, and he will deal with the minds of the people because we belong to him. No one is here on earth by accident. We're here to serve him. To serve him is to love one another and care and protect each other. Let's pray together. Father, in the name of Jesus of Nazareth, we bow our heads before your throne. We lift our hearts unto you. We say, how great thou art. as we gathered here to discuss the challenges that we are facing as a city, the challenges that we are facing as the province, the challenges that we are facing as a country. We know that you have all the answers. Provide as we discuss these issues, help us. We give you praise and honor. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen.
Siyabonga kumfundisi Mbuyazi. I would like to formally acknowledge the presence of the mayor, who is our host, Councillor Ukhawunda, Mayor of eThekwini. Siyakubingelela Baba Ukhawunda. Siyabonga ukuthi ube nathi this morning. I would also like to acknowledge the speaker in absentia. He is on the way. He will be here soon. And councillors of the executive committee who are also coming to this session. I would like to also acknowledge councillors of finance and security committee. I've seen a few that are here, who are the hosting committee of council for this crime summit. Also present here are the leadership of the South African Police Services. Acknowledge Major General Matonzi, who is standing in for the national leadership of SAPS. Acknowledge all his colleagues who came down from national here with him, and also acknowledge leadership of SAPS in the province. I know that in the district, Major General Keswa is going to be with us as well. I haven't seen her so far, but I know that her team is here, and they may also be members from the provincial office. So I acknowledge all of them, and our Metro Police, together with the Deputy Commissioner who's leading them, who is here, Mkhunu, and all members of Metro Police. We also have administrators from all three levels of government, national, provincial, and local, who are here. I also acknowledge their presence here. The NGO sector, different organizations who are here from that sector, including the CPFs, the UIPs, and many other security stakeholders who are here with us. All departments of government who are here, the faith-based organizations also, and all cultural organizations who are here with us. Good morning today. The session today and tomorrow focuses on crime in the city of eThekwini. It also focuses on social cohesion as it manifests itself in our society. We have held different sessions as a country, as a province. We've held Izimbizo with communities. We also have listened to crime statistics being presented. And as a city, we need to look at ourselves and make a decision on where we are on crime that is engulfing the city. Are we winning, or have we put plans in place to actually deal with the crime that is upon us? So the speakers who will give us inputs today will be dissecting the different elements of crime and how to fight crime, the reasons for why crime exists or why it's going up, and the measures that we can take in order to abet or to fight or to eliminate the crime that is engulfing the country. So to set the scene, the mayor of eThekwini will open the session. He will advise us or give direction and give input as well as to what the city is doing to combat crime in the city. And then the different stakeholders will then input and indicate what their role is in what the mayor will give us this morning. So without waste of time, I would like to request the mayor of eThekwini, uCouncillor Umxolisi Kaunda, to come forward and give us a welcome address to the summit.
Thank you. You may be seated. Yisela wezwa ngobani ukuthi selali yayekwa. Wezwa ngobani ukuthi selali yisela. Yisela bo wezwa ngobani. Yisela bo. Thank you. Amandla awethu phansi nobugebengu phansi. Down with crime, down with crime, down. Phansi nezidakamizwa phansi. Phansi nezidakamizwa phansi. Phansi nababulali phansi. Phansi nabadlwenguli phansi. Phambili nomphakathi ubumbene phambili. Thank you. Honorable councillors who are present today from the Finance, Safety and Emergency Standing Committee of our municipality, thank you very much for showing up. This is your work. General Matonze and your team from SAPS that you are leading, senior management and all the officers present, Deputy City Manager of Community Services, Dr. Kumete, and the entire team of administration that you are leading. I heard you mentioning SAPS was not there in numbers. Police that is not here in numbers. Solve that problem. Yeah, when we were. Aye, sekhona into evuliwe. Anivali lapho ningayioni le likhuza nizo conflict. Ngoba phela umeya uyayazi itechnology, uyazi ukuthi yini lesidala conflict. Usayabona ukuthi hayi khona sekoniwe okunye. So we need to sort that one out. Let me greet the committee structures which are at the coal face of fighting crime. We know Babiela is here from the provincial youth desk and other colleagues. The committee fighting structures, KZN, CCPA, and our regional structures that are present, the neighborhood watch representatives present, the academia, the business that is present today, the religious sector, amakhosi asendlunkulu, all our stakeholders, you are all being recognized And we wish to thank you for availing yourself for this very important engagement in our municipality. Members of the media, if they are here. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Sanbonan. Feel relaxed, because if you want to fight crime, you attend, you may put the wrong strategies. Just feel relaxed, calm yourself down, just be ready, prepare yourself to put the real strategies that will enable us to fight crime effectively. For this beautiful city, this is our city, this is how beautiful it is. But if you look at the levels of crime, it doesn't complement the beauty of the city. In fact, it's chasing people away. So this is the reason why we are gathered here today, to make this beautiful city remain beautiful, people to be protected in this beautiful city of ours. Even if some amongst us, they want to say the city is not beautiful, that's a fact which you can't change. It is beautiful, but it has got challenges. Whoever who comes here, I've been welcoming ambassadors, delegations from different countries. The only message they give me as a mayor, your city is beautiful. Then South Africans here living in eThekwini, natural disasters, they are on television every day, they are saying the city is not beautiful. It's a contradiction. When people from overseas come here and tell us, not that they hear about the city from us, they walk, we take them to different places, we take them to Inanda, we take them everywhere. They still confirm it. Your city, Mr. Mayor, is beautiful. But South Africans, they are not good ambassadors. You've never heard anyone from their own country, those people who are really patriotic and love their countries, talking bad about their own country. You'll never hear that. You'll never hear that. It's only here in South Africa where the opposition must be on television every day. They know that the infrastructure was damaged by the floods, we are fixing it, and we are on course in fixing it. But every day they are saying people must not come here, must go to Cape Town. What kind of people are these people? I don't understand them. In your own city, where there will be jobs, you are chasing investors from Umhlanga, you are standing at Umhlanga every day, you are saying to investors, move away from Umhlanga. Even those people who are running businesses there, because of political reasons, they are joining the DA in saying that. They are not joining us to fix things, but their business will get lost. So I'm saying we're talking about the beautiful city. This city is beautiful. You can't remove that. Whether you like it or not, this city is beautiful. So we must secure people who live in this beautiful city. Those who are councillors who are doing it, we don't mind their politicians, but those who are councillors in eThekwini who are doing it, they must come and answer. We'll give them the number of tourists to whom they have swung by their negative statements. They must come and answer in the ethics committee of this municipality. Colleagues, would like to extend our sincere gratitude to all of you for being part of this Crime Summit and Social Cohesion Summit to share ideas on how collectively we can address the scourge of crime and build socially cohesive communities. Sikujabulela kakhulu ukuba khona kwenu ngoba yonke lembono esiyidinga izoqhamuka. Masihlangene sibangaka ayikho into engahlula thina. Siyibuthe elikhulu kabi nje bahlangene la. Ukuthi icrime ayikwazi ukuthi ikhule, fanele siyehlise. Ngeke siyiqede manje, kodwa fanele siyehlise. Ibe sezingeni eliphansi, kodwa inhloso kube ukuyiqeda. Nokuphilisana ke nje kwabantu kubalekile ukuthi sazi ukuthi abantu bakithi bahlalisene ngendlela emphakathini nempilo iyaqhubeka iyaphambili. Ladies and gentlemen, the Freedom Charter, which we all draw inspiration from, says that South Africa belongs to all who live in it. In line with this noble principle, as South Africans, we are duty-bound to work together to build a united, prosperous, and crime-free society. Mayisho njalo ke usomqulu enkululeko ukuthi bonke abantu abahlala kulelizwe eyabo leNingizimu Afrika. Ungabeke wena soyitolika ngenye indlela. Bonke abahlala kulelizwe eyabo leNingizimu Afrika. Awukwazi kona ukushintsha lokuthi eyami akuyona yethu ehlezi kuyona. Ngakho kubalekile ukuthi silungiselele ukuthi ibe leso simo esaphushwa ababengaphembulu kwethu ukuthi bawufuna iNingizimu Afrika enjani ehleleke ngayiphi indlela emelele kanganani abantu namalungelo abantu abahlezi kuyona. Ngakho ke sonke kufanele siqinisekise ukuthi ukubumbana kwabantu kwesizwe salapha eNingizimu Afrika kuyazi lapha eThekwini kanjalo nenqubekela phambili nanokuthi kungabi khona ubugebengu umphakathi uphile impilo enhle. The National Development Plan says that in 2030 people living in South Africa should feel safe and have no fear of crime. They are safe at school, at home, at workplaces, and they enjoy an active community life free of fear. Women can walk freely in the streets and children can play safely outside. Masingakafinyeleli kuleli zinga lokuthi noma ubani oyisakhamuzi salapha eNingizimu Afrika saKwaZulu Natal saseThekwini azizwe ephephile. Engagcina ukuzizwa phephile athi mayihambe emgwaqweni akuzwe lokuphepha nje kubone nangamehlo ukuthi uphephile. It's unlike the video footage which is circulating of a Fortuna resident who tried to defend himself because that owner was defenseless when people wanted to come and take his vehicle and rob them. But he stood his ground. He said, I must die with you. I must die with you. So if you can't take the fortune of my children, you can't take the investment of this family, and I watch you, I'll do nothing. I must defend my asset. That's what he did. And I think he deserves a big round of applause. He's a hero. He's a hero. He's a hero. He couldn't wait for the police to arrive. He had to defend himself because police were not there. Because police can't be found in each and every corner, in each and every street. But he stood the ground to say, I'm fighting crime in South Africa. I'm making this an example that communities must rise to the occasion and defend themselves. But that is not the society we seek to build. We seek to build a society where when you drive on the street around your localities, you feel safe and you are indeed safe. Through many diverse interventions that we need to put in place. So the answers to people like that, to victims like that of crime, they should come out of this summit. This is not a summit to review policies, strategies, and all of that. Already there are resolutions from national summit, provincial summit. We need to adapt these resolutions to meet the standards and operations at our level, at this local level. We are not going to be bringing something new, but let's take those because those summits resolved on certain matters. Askwazi ukuthi abantu, the crime by its nature, it presents threats to the state security. It presents threats to the state security. Why it presents threats to the state security is because when people are already trying to defend themselves all the time, one day they'll have to declare and say, so that means we can protect ourselves without the police. And that will be a situation which is not envisaged in the country. There must be a review of our constitution. There must be a review of our constitution. Whether we like it or not, there is something wrong about it. I'm here to defend it. But I can't close my eyes and say everything is well with our constitution. It's not. If you are not rich, our constitution and our criminal justice system, it puts you away. But when you are rich, it embraces you. We must correct it. We as lawmakers, we must correct it. We are shining with it in the whole world. People are saying, hey, Constitution of South Africa is number one in the whole world. It's number one because it serves their interest, not people of South Africa. Here, when you are the victim of crime, the criminal has more rights than you as a victim of crime. It can't be correct. It can't be correct. These police officers seated here, shooting a criminal in defense of the Constitution, in defense of the vulnerable, but they need to go all these processes, they are prosecuted in defense of citizens. So some of them, they can't even act now because they fear that I'll be alone in that box in court. There is evidence before everyone. And the evidence says already there were 5 citizens already lying down when the police arrived. There were other 15 citizens that the police were supposed to save. But they must also answer why they shot the criminals. That is not the kind of law that we want. We want these police officers to have power to be respected in the society. How are they going to be respected in the society when they defend themselves, defending the Constitution, defending people who are vulnerable, but they become the victims of the same law? We are not saying police must be happy about shooting people. We are not sending that message. They are trained. They know the space. They know when to open fire. They know when to defend the society and how to defend the society. They've been trained to do that. But our laws elevate people who are criminals. We must change it. We must change that. When I sign the pledge of defending the Constitution, if there's something which are not good in that Constitution, I'll raise it. If it's also an offense in South Africa for the mayor to say that, let me be arrested for that. But I'm saying this in the plight of our communities who are poor. When they meet the criminal justice system, it rejects them because they are poor. This can't be correct. So police, please prepare to arrest this mayor if I've broken any law. Arrest this mayor. In other countries, I'm not saying we must bring back the death sentence, but in other countries, I'll tell you, in China, if you commit corruption there, you are gone. You get executed. Just for the mayor, when we visited there in 2020, we were told that the case took about 1.5 years. Then as you are here as the delegation from South Africa, that mayor is gone now, it's no more. He was found guilty. The senior government person beated his wife, not killed his wife. He is no more. Executed for that. It's an offense, serious offense. Just beating your wife. He was executed. He's no more. I'm not saying we must take that route, but we must try and intensify our laws to be felt that when you commit crime in South Africa, you don't even want to repeat that offense because you know the consequences. Not everybody must enjoy parole. You commit rape more than 7 times, you are still out on parole. For what? You have killed people, but we still found you out on parole. For what? Then you think that criminals will reduce the numbers. We are just playing. We are just playing. We need to mean business. When we say no criminality must be committed in this country, people must feel that. When we are standing in podiums, they mustn't feel that there comes these politicians, they just make statements, nice statements, but when it comes to action, nothing. Tololo. We need to face that. So our leaders who are sent to government must implement the resolutions that will be taken this December. I think this December there must be a difference in the resolutions that must be taken. These issues must find expression. And leaders who are not prepared to implement those resolutions, they must ship out. They mustn't stand. Why do you want to be elected if there are resolutions, they are there, and you are not prepared to implement them? And leaders who may not be having so much energy that is required now, they must also ship out. Shouldn't be an issue, shouldn't be a debate. Shouldn't be a debate. Now mosubona usuna 85, una 80. Ngampela uzofika uthini la beParliament. Why fanele silokho sicela manje asicele uzofika uthini la beParliament 80 years, 90 years. Hayi bakwethu no akuyona indawo yokuthi lapha ya sibalekela abazukulu. We need people who will take these decisions, policy decisions, carrying the aspirations of our communities on daily basis. Akuyona indawo kulala le. Musa nje eParliament ufuna ukuchitha ubuthongo bakho lapha akuyona indawo kulala le. That's why things are happening like this, because people get there and sleep instead of doing their work. Mawufuna ulala hamba khaya. Kuyalaleka lapha ekhaya. Angazi ubani lo wathi mangabe usuye ekhaya uzoshesha udlule, because isikhathi nje sibekwa uThixo. Whether ususekhaya noma uke ekhaya, mawufuna udlula uzodlula ngoba imvelo ukudlula. So mangazi ukhona wathi nje hey nize ningaye ekhaya. Uzofika ekhaya udlule, cha akudlulwa nje. Colleagues, again, for us to achieve this vision of guaranteeing safety to our people, all hands must be on deck. We cannot overemphasize the importance of forming a strong alliance between communities, police, and business in achieving the goal of creating a safe environment for all. Such collaboration is critical given the grim picture painted by the recently released crime statistics. Ngeke sikunqobe lempi bafowethu nodadewethu uma sicabanga ukuthi amaphoyisa bekodongeni siwacindezele sithi wona ngenzi kahle, kodwa imphakathi ayisukume. Imphakathi must reject crime. Imphakathi must own their streets. Imphakathi must own their villages. Umphakathi must own this CPD. It can't be owned by criminals. Umphakathi efanele usukume uthi hayi egameni lethu ningakwenza kwelinye igama not lethu. But by so saying, General Matonzi, we are not saying the police must drop the ball. We are not saying that. When we say the community must rise and work with you, we must complement one another. We can't be mobilizing the community on this side, but your members wearing the uniform, a point to be collect some bribes, some drugs. Wearing uniform. That uniform has got pride. You can't wear this uniform, you go and collect bribes there. Ngihamba nge-NDM1 bayazi ke-NDM1 ukuthi ihamba umeya. Ngi-approach i-Coastlands e-South Beach. Nansi iveni amaphoyisa imile la inamaphoyisa phakathi. Ngala inezinsizwa ezimbili ezifana nami nje ngokwebala nangobude niyazazi ke. Enye ibengileli window elingapha, enye imekileli window elingapha. Ngokubonakala nje ku-NDM1 yasuka ngejubane iveni yabaleka. Inamaphoyisa agqoke uniform. Ngelikhulu ijubane yabaleka iveni. Ibalekelani mawuthi izokwenza umsebenzi ukuphephisa abantu ePoint. Mayibone NDM1 wayibaleka. Somebody who decided to rob people using my name, eyibiza ngomeya ethi organizela abantu amathenda. Enye lawo ma victims. Enye lawo ma victims, two meya waseThekwini uKhawunda uzokorganize itender correctional services manje fanele wena ulethe 250,000 ukuthi umeya akwazi ukuhlanganisa kahle labantu abazobe belungisa lento ababonge engakenzeki then ke mase kwenzeka sithola itender ka 1.5 million uzethi lo meya ngiqome ngoba le mali somane sishade ngayo ngoba nabodadewethu ngendlela sebewudinga ngayo umshado ngempela sekulula nje mawucabanga nje umeya account ngamanasuku nje uzokushada nikhobanisa amathenda mase nizoshada ngaleyo mali yamathenda bangena ke esilingweni kodadewethu baningi asebekhokhile akhokha imali encane futhi lapha kokwa 250,000 50,000 iyahluka it varies ufika bheke wena emehlweni lo meya ukuthi unemali engakanani noma une potential okuraise imali engakanani kodwa some of the people who came when this lady testified some of the people who came to collect that money was a police vehicle registered with 2 women driving that police vehicle, SAPS vehicle, at Eddington Hospital where the spot was identified for the money to be collected. Full uniform. So that means there is a challenge in the police. There is a challenge. And if we are on denial, we say no, police are clean. If we are on denial, they will taint the image of the police. Let's look for them, identify them, name and shame them, arrest them, kick them out of the police, then you'll remain with the good police. Ningabesabi General Matonzi, ningabesabathi bulmpela. Bonke labantu abasebenza nama drug dealers, ngoba ama drug dealers anemali yokuthenga inkabi. So once you are identified ukuthi usu uyayilandela into yabo kufuneka ukwazi ukuthi uyayilandela into yabo because you'll die. So amaphoyisa asebenzisa indlela eziningi ke zokwenza lokho. The reason why we have challenges in Maran Hill and the western areas where people are being killed is because people are suspected they are the ones who are giving the police information about the drug lords. That's why people are being killed like that. Don't expose yourself. Work underground. Relate relevant information to where it belongs. For us to appreciate these statistics, it is important to mention that eThekwini is the only metro in the province which makes us to be the economic hub of KwaZulu-Natal. We are also the second largest city in the country and home to Africa's busiest port. In terms of economies, we are the second economy. But General, I can give an assurance that is not appreciated when it comes to the resources. It is not. It is not appreciated. We must blame ourselves as politicians who make budgets. When it comes to police, we put small budget. But when things are happening, we shout at the police. That attitude must change. You can't be a complainant who when I keep imali, yokuthenga ama resources. Then you say to the people, crime phezulu, usukhala kanye nabantu. Provide resources, then blame the police. You can't blame them when there are no resources. With one van, kwandengezi, then ngathi amaphoyisa kwandengezi azokwenza icrime ibe phansi bebhekozwe elibomvu zonke leza indawo ezisemakhaya. Then you think those police officers will be effective? Ngevene eyi-1. Nalo vene one nestaff sislim ko Josh Day. Sislim nestaff mawuphume nje aba u4 sekusela ababini kuphela epolice station, then you think you can defeat crime. It's not gonna be feasible. We must sort those things out so that when we blame the police, we'll blame them on the basis that we have given you resources but you are not performing, and we fire them. So how do we fire you now, General, if we don't give you resources? We say you are not executing your responsibility, but we know you don't have enough veins. We know you don't have enough personnel. How do we then fire you? There's nothing that can justify that. But I'm not saying, don't take my message wrong, don't distort it. I'm not saying with the limited resources at your disposal, you can make a difference. It also depends on how those limited resources at your disposal, you manage them well. Manage them well. But with one van, I won't lie, you won't do anything there. We must give you more vans, we must give you additional staff. That's why we are saying to the business must come on board. If government fail to have enough resources, business must come on board and say, our employees who must be productive in our businesses, they can't come and be productive when they are victims of crime. So as businesses, we want also to offer government that so much vans, you must go and work there. I guess you have figured out trouble, General Matuns. We receive a donation kwa hulumeni. It takes 10 years. Says the private sector, it takes 10 years for government to accept that donation. That's how lazy we are. That's how lazy we are. We put people in positions who do not want to change the policies which we have been there for years, which are not helping the nation. They just enjoy nice offices and air conditioners and the drinks in their fridges, but decisions are bad, terrible. Why don't you change that? Why National Treasurer subject all departments? When you get a donation, it must go to National Treasurer. And National Treasurer, there's a bureaucracy there. It takes long for them to approve things. Someone who must just sign this thing off will take this to another desk and the other desk. Then we become useless as government. Useless. We must change that. We are urging those who are given administrative powers, because those are administrative powers. They do not need politicians. See, now we pass laws. Those are administrative powers. Those who are given power administratively, go and put those policies away. Amanzi avuza kangaka nje eThekwini because kuthiwa fanele uqale kube ne-reference number. Uyayizwa loo nto? Mangabe umuntu wakwa-Metro Water and Sanitation udrive imoto yethu, udrive ngodiesel wethu, ugqoke i-uniform yethu, uyawajomba amanzi avuzayo ayekuleya ene-reference number eka-8 lawa u-7 udlula kona ngemoto yaka-Metro, aweqe wonke aphinde abuye aweqe sebuya usawolindele enye i-ref number. Those are policies which are useless. I said to this city, you must fire people who still insist in that useless policy. Seqalile city manager manje uyafarisha, ngiyamthanda umbhele. Futhi sizomsupport. He must fire useless people in the administration. Fire them. There are young people out there who are well educated with their qualifications, who are unemployed. When people are wasting our time, we must fire them. In the police, do the same. Whatever ranks that you have, but if you can't take administrative decisions which make life easy for people of South Africa, you are useless. Just in the general, ukuthi ama systems zethu, ukuthi EPOP is controlled national, which is good, by the way. There's nothing wrong with that. But now, mase control national, kodwa mase ikhona la province in. Lo la province akabe nama powers okuyisebenzisa. Kungabi nekhame engaka kuCBD kune POP ethatha yohlalise eMaran Hill ilindele ipublic protest ingafiki ngosuku igoduka emakhaya ubugebengu bunje kuCBD. Then you say there are people who are decision makers. They are not helping us at all. So that must change. If you want to fight crime, TRT, POP, when they are not responding to what they are designated to do, they must conduct general police. Every police officer, when you are trained to arrest people and deal with crime. The other technical skills are complementary skills, which are good. But you must go and arrest criminals there. Now somebody seated there nationally, you withhold this POP. remains there in Maran Hill for the whole day. Ingane zethu zithola umsebenzi zisene energy sencane zifuna ukujaha igebengu ziyohlaliswa eMaran Hill for the whole day zidrive imoto ibuyele emakhaya engenzanga lutho ngosuku. That must come to an end. I'm challenging you as administration to go and change that. Those are wrong decisions. Looking at the numbers that are going to be released, prevention. Let's expedite that program. That program should not be a program that gets reported in meetings, but when you go out, there's no improvement. Businesses are willing to spend their money. And this time, because our processes of SCM take long, don't say they must give us money to buy cameras. Say to them, buy cameras, but these are the features in the cameras that you must buy so that they can be easily linked with the police system. Don't buy a camera which can't be adapted to the system of the police, because police must utilize these cameras to ensure that we prevent crime before it happens. So don't ask for money, because some of them, they don't trust us to give us money. Don't ask for money. Ask for them to buy cameras, but give them the quality and the features that you need in those cameras so that they can be easily linked with the police. And they're willing to do that. But if you ask them to give us money, our SCM will take forever. That's how government works. And I wonder why we still keep people like that in government who make these systems not to work. When you are employed, we pay you millions. We pay you millions because you must make the systems work. I wonder, and we must fire them. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you are aware that this summit has also been convened to address the issue of social cohesion. We are pleased that today eThekwini Municipality has been able to bring together people from diverse origins, histories, heritage, languages, cultures, and religion, with the sole purpose of building a united community. We are indeed following in the footsteps of our struggle forebears, who in 1955 convened people from all walks of life in Kliptown and declared that South Africa belongs to all who live in it. It is pleasing to note that the aspirations of the Freedom Charter find expression in our Constitution. The Equality Clause in the Constitution provides a basis for an inclusive society regarding race, gender, sex, ethnicity, religion, age, disability, belief, culture, language, and birth. Ladies and gentlemen, you'll agree with me that as the people of South Africa, we come from a divided past, and this happened over centuries where races were turned against one another. The indigenous people of this country were made to hate themselves for a simple reason of dividing them. Today, we are witnessing incidents which we can't account for, where the criminals see the vacuum and commit a crime. And when that crime is committed, xenophobia, Afrophobia, which is not the case in South Africa. We are not xenophobic here. There's no Afrophobia here. If that was the case, because ubaba ufike imigrant wafika wahlala kahle nani base South Africa, wahlala nazo namshintsho zoba citizen ese South Africa, waba full citizen in South Africa, wathola abantwana futhi abahle nje banibona nomeya. After that waba isakhamuzi esiphelele. Now iphi xenophobia lapho? Why bebengashawa yonke leminyaka umuntu wafike la ko 18 years? Why bengashawa yonke leminyaka? Why bengaqoshwa konanda? Why? If there's xenophobia, there's no xenophobia. It's criminals who identify an opportunity and attack people on the name of xenophobia and Afrophobia, which must be defeated and be rooted out in the society. Despite the attempts the government has made to build a non-racial, non-sexist, and democratic South Africa, the wounds of the past are still evident even today. This therefore presents a need for us to have a dialogue to heal our people from the chains of hatred, discrimination, and intolerance. You see this thing finding expression in schools. Ingane ithuka enye ingane ngobuzwe bayo. Ingane ichamele incwadi zenye ingane because ibona lenenye inferior, lenenye ifanele ithithwe njengomuntu ohlukile kunabanye abantu. But if we don't have these exchange programs, iy'kole zaseNanda zidlale ney'kole zaseDurban North, iy'kole zaseDurban North kuye kuthiwa lapha eNanda kuhlala iy'lwane zisuke ingane zaseDurban North zimhlophe zinjalo ziyodlala egrawundini laseNanda kudlalwe ziphume iphephile zihambe iphephile. Then that's what brings us together. Akufuneke kulwa lakho, akufuneke inhlamba lapho, nalento yenhlamba ke sehlise nje. Inhlamba ngathi sihlala ihlezi la olimini. Lento yenhlamba ke sehlisini. Kancane. Yabo, ningasho ukuthi noma ukwayithuka inhlamba wathi this is nonsense, into esuke ingenasense akuyonhlamba. Our efforts will ensure that we create a cohesive, a healthy society so that the young generation can have a brighter future. It is against this background that a summit on social cohesion is crucial as a catalyst to forge a social compact among all sectors of society. Let me remind you that the journey that we have traveled as a country to get to where we are today has been long and fraught with challenges. However, through dialogue and reaching out to one another, we were able to have a consensus on how we're going to move forward and build a South Africa that is now an envy of the countries of the world. We want to urge you once more to use this summit to strengthen efforts to build more inclusive, caring, humane, and a proud city. This summit must also assist us to develop a set of shared values that define who we are as South Africans and what kind of society we seek to build. Hence, we want to build here from a Central Park, between the workshop and the City Hall. We want to make that a precinct. So where you walk around that area, you must find the reflection of who we are as Durbanites. All the different cultures, the craft work, everything that will be displayed in the museums that will be around this area, so that when you take that walk, you become a different people after you've walked through that precinct. So that's what we intend doing, and we are on course in terms of bringing about that. At the same time, we must also find solutions to address challenges that prevent us from building an inclusive society. We can't continue with the status quo, where the economy still is on the hands of the few. When you ask our officials, how far are we going with transformation? They'll tell you how this project, 200 companies are African-owned companies. But when you ask them about the value in that project, the value are the crumbs. But ngapha hayi lezi nje zabanye ziwu7 kuphela. But if you ask about the value is more than what the 150 is benefiting from. That thing is unbecoming. That thing must come to an end. That thing, we must stop theorizing about it and be rhetoric about it. We must change it. This city belongs to all who live in it. It shouldn't be about how we welcome one another, how we kiss, how we hug one another. It should also reflect financially, economically. When you go to areas like Konanda, Komzinyathi, you go to Kombumbulu, you go to Komakuta, you mustn't smell poverty when you go to these areas. We must change that. This economy must benefit those communities. Injena jene economy ngakhuli njiba neyinkinga. It's because nama economists ayakutshela ukuthi if you want to grow economy is about numbers. So when the majority of people who are bigger number, they are not working, they are unemployed, your economy won't grow. It's scientific, so it doesn't need someone to tell us ukuthi if ungaba empowerish limphakathi eseyindaweni esemakhaya nasemalokishini, then you think the economy should be on the hands of the few, then it is going to grow as envisaged. It's not going to happen. Because economy, it's about the buying power. When I work, when I own my business, that money that I have, I circulate it in the economy. I buy goods or do everything. I buy services. That is economy. So it can't grow if it's like this. Status quo must not remain. To address these challenges, government has made it clear that since we have attained political freedom, now it is the time to accelerate radical socio-economic transformation. A society that believes in social justice, where there is access to quality education, healthcare, and decent housing. We must strive for a society that respects each other's culture, religion, and heritage. As leaders of society, as a parent, teacher, community activist, or religious leader or traditional leader, we must teach our kids from the young age to celebrate our diverse cultures so that they grow up with an appreciation that there is a strength in our diversity. Young boys must be nurtured to understand to coexist with young girls, but as well there are social issues which must be addressed. In nowadays, colleagues, Councillor Madlala, we observe that people are killing one another ngokuthi omunye waliwe. Ukwala nje umuntu efanele bekhona ofayo. Uze waliwe nje wena wenze ngani kahle. Ngoba nothando lifuna kwenziwe kahle. Yonke into ibe yinhle. Yonke into ibe mnandi othandweni. Manje ke aqinise lawo mabhawodi kuvunyelwana ukuthi konje sina sobabe njengama partners ukuze kube mnandi kulolu thando, kube mnandi ku-enjoy uthando, ludliwe kahle uthando. Yini efunakala yenziwe? Hayi lento ukuthi simane sifuna ukuba ogombela kwesabo nathi uma nje uqonge uyitshela wena ngabe umuntu wesilisa ngakuze utshela ukuthi kufanele kuthandwane kanjani la ekhaya. Imini khale sami isicathulo la. Naso sibe singekho njalo. Phela isicathulo ukuze sikhalifa sibe khona. Now, allow this person to understand you better and you understand her better. Then you become partners. Partnership is about equality. It's about embracing one another. It's not about someone dictating to one another. So when you do that, masekwala sekufanele. Kodwa sicele phela nathi singadliswa bakwethu. Nedliso liyingozi kabe yayo. Umuntu mayidlisiwe nje uba nolaka olunzima kabe yayo. Akafune lutho ngento yakho phela angithi umdlisele lokho. Umdlisithi angafune lutho lunye, afune wena. Manje mangabe ke sumdlisile kodwa nisubonakala nabanye. Kuzokwenzeka nathi ngihlala phansi ngelo ukuthi let us be responsible as family heads. Let us be responsible as family heads. Ayekho umuntu ongathi uhead wefamily wena ohola lomndeni kodwa yonke imali la ekhaya uyayithatha uyichitha eminyango la ekhaya ufika ungasenamali amaphakethi sikhishelwe ngaphandle usuhamba ukhala la uthi akudliwe ikabishi kuphela linempilo impela ikabishi kwani nyama sifuna ibuye ilunguzi linempilo impela ikabishi hayi ukuthi ngigxeke ikabishi yonke sifuna namadumbe yonke sifuna kodwa kufanele kube kuhluke kancane noma kuthiwa usuku olulodwa nje kube khona nenyamana no fish mhlambe singadlile bomvu kakhulu sidle ufish nemhlophe. But now mase uyispenda yonke le mali ngaphandle usufika ekhaya ngasenalutho sekuqala inkinga ekhaya because lo munye usekunotisile ukuthi futhi ke siyashesha thina njengobaba ukubanjwa mase siqala ukuba namanye amakhaya ngaphandle kuiza ukubamba umuntu wesilisa hayi ongalakajana bangabanjwa besifazana ngeke umbambe lo yabona makuthiwa ngabantu abenza kahle into yabo mase beyenze uyishaya quietly mangabe semsebenzini ubuya ngesikhathi ubaba uqala umnothise kalula nje makade ejwayele ukubuya ngo5 ekhaya useqala ukubuya ngo9 ebusuku uthi oh hayi ke lo kodwa besifazane mayephuma ngo4 usesendlini futhi uyabheka wenza yonke le lindeleke ekhaya kodwa ngalezi ikhathi zomsebenzi hayi ubusy and bayishaka mnani linto yabo ba quiet yabo bamhlonipha uhusband yabo uhusband ngempela ngeke nawe uzuthi awungampela hayi kodwa ngamwenzani ngoba ngeke ubone lutho vese futhi kuhle khona uhlezi ungabone lutho ngoba usubonile kuzoqala manje kube nenkinganyana kodwa nje ukubalekile ukuthi let us love one another, let us embrace one another, let us keep this family strong, to be strong family structures zikwazi ukukhiqiza intsha youth vela kulamakhaya ezoba productive ikwazi ukwakha isociety esiyifunayo. Ngalawo mazwi sithi le summit ivuliwe. Siyabonga.
Ayi ongenazo indlebe kuphela ongezwanga kodwa nezindlebe uzwile. Thank you very much, Babu Mayor, for encouraging words of wisdom, and also for laying the path or putting a foundation for this summit, so that as we start the summit, we know what is expected, what the challenges are, where the gaps are, and what we need to put forward. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome uKhansela Madlala, uKhansela Nkosenhle Madlala, uhlalo waka Governance and Human Resources. You're welcome, Khansela. Si welcome. I saw ubaba uMpungose okuyena ophethe DDM eThekwini. Thank you for being here. It means there will be good reflections in the DDM structures of what came out of here if the DDM structures are also involved here. Thank you very much. Sizokwehlisa amazwi kaBabu Mayor before sirole ama-sleeves ethu and listen to the experts on different topics. eThekwini has got programs of culture and social cohesion. We also have competitions like we've got gospel ID competition, talent search, and once we unearth that talent, we then use that talent and expose it to the world. So the lady who's coming here has been identified from some of those programs, the Gospel ID program. Her name is Zandile Tilela. She will come forward to the stage now. Azosipha unamboti umculo owehla esiphundu ozothatha inhliziyo zethu uyixhumanise noNkulunkulu. Mhlamba sidansise nje futhi. Mhlambe soba nethuba lokubona umesha ama-get down asazi. Kuzoya nokuthi usisi wethu uZandile Thilela oza ngaphambili uzosipha muphi umculo, asimshayeleni ihlombe eza ngaphambili.
siyohlala noJesu njalo kuzohlatshelelwa khona mhlaba sebelena yebo Jerusalema Jerusalema ayohanalisa bethi makadumise ifananela Jerusalema elisha ebokiso atele ebokona abangwele sebenena yaba ya Jerusalem elisha Jerusalem yona ba Yohana Elizabeth Echimanga tumiswe Ifananela Yaba ya Jerusalem Elisha Yaba khona nana Jerusalem Elisha Jerusalem, when I was to be, Iswa Jesua Shubi Audi Paniswa Jesua Shubi Ashubi Audi Paniswa Yamaniswa Ashubi Amstabani Wanda
Thank you very much. That is the winner of Gospel ID in 2020. That was the winner in 2020 for Gospel ID at eThekwini. Uzandile Thilela. Senohlangana naye ke nimbuzo utholala kanjani. Akumini agent ningezi kumina. Ningathumeli lutho futhi kumina. She will be available, I'm sure, for any corporate or private or public function. Siyabonga kakhulu sisi. We're now going to get into the gist of this discussion so that we start putting together our ideas, putting them forward, listening to experts as well, listening to people in the field, either as security entities or as researchers, and even as community members. We have a few speakers that are going to be giving us input. We have a professor, we have a general, and we have an analyst, a policy analyst, who are going to give us information. My team has been trying to send me information, but first I must confirm if there has been connection with Professor Machukwana. Have you made connection? So that if you have not made connection, we start with another speaker. Can I confirm if you have linked up with Professor Machukwana? Angiboni isandla esikhombisa ukuthi siyavuma. Can I then start with another speaker if you are still connecting, so that we do not waste any time? We have a program in eThekwini called a Safer City Initiative. It's an initiative of national government to use smart policing technology in order to make sure that we combat crime and we shorten the distance and also improve the linkages between different stakeholders, private, public, and other stakeholders. This program is led by the mayor as the chairperson of the Safer City Initiative, and it is a pilot in South Africa, one of the pilots that are being conducted right now. It is led from the SAPS side on behalf of the National Commissioner by Major General Tima Tonsi, who will come forward to give us a talk on the National Integrated Safer Cities Program, the roadmap, and the eThekwini implementation trajectory. I would like to request Major General to come forward while they are dealing with the speaker who will be virtual, who will then follow the general. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Program Director, Dr. Gumede. Let me acknowledge the Mayor of eThekwini, Mr. Kaunda. I thought I saw the speaker, the councillors, all the committees, our Bishop, Muyaze, the CPF structures and CSF, my colleagues from the province, the stations, as well as the district, the DC, Mr. Mtunu, from the Metro, and all other colleagues who are also here. The provincial office, I think, is represented, the community safety is represented by Mrs. Mbongwe. I don't see her anymore, but she is here, I know. Oh, she's here. All the other provincial governments. Allow me to say all protocol observed. Good morning once more. I've been introduced as Major General Matonzi. I'm from SAPS head office, but I must indicate that originally I'm from Ilembe. So that is where I come from. The reason why I'm saying that is that when I deal with eThekwini, I'm dealing with home. So it's different from dealing with Cape Town or Mangaung, etc., etc. So I want you to understand from that perspective. Thank you very much. I believe that there will be breakaways. So what we are presenting this morning is an input to the discussion that the breakaways will have. But also very importantly is that what I'm presenting is a broad framework or thinking around the safer city, so that as you deliberate, you also look at specific aspects that will relate to environment. Let me test my technology before it embarrasses me. Okay, it works. Thank you very much. So these are the topics that I will cover this morning. Just a quick background. I'm also going to touch just a little bit on crime because I only have about 15 minutes. I think the mayor touched on it, but I'm also just going to run through it quickly. And then I'm just going to brief you briefly about the concept of Safer Cities program as indicated by Dr. Gumede, and then the roadmap in terms of the process or how the program will unfold as we propose, and then the implementation overview, and then I will close after that. Firstly, maybe for those who may not have heard about Safer City, is just to reflect why are we doing it. We know that there are other countries globally who are implementing Safer City or Smart City, which I'll come to the difference at a later stage. But why are we doing it? Safer City is not necessarily a purely crime prevention initiative, but is to ensure that we can achieve community safety, broadly speaking. Meaning that irrespective where you come from, you must find yourself within the smart city. Because safety is not necessarily about policing, as Mayor indicated, but it's also about addressing other social factors as well. So why Safer City? It's because we want to reduce crime and violence. Because a smart city will not have crime. We cannot say we want to achieve a livable, vibrant city if there is crime. We have to address crime first. In fact, whatever investment that you want to make, if you don't address crime first, that investment will not succeed. Secondly, we also want to make sure that people feel safe in our cities. Let's talk about City of eThekwini in this particular case. There is a difference between reducing crime and making sure that people feel safe. Meaning that we can present numbers and say crime reduced by 10%, but people will still feel not safe. So those are two different things that we have to look at. So celebrating the reduction of figures is not sufficient. What is sufficient is for people feeling safe. People must feel that I can go out at any time. Kids must feel that they can play outside without any fear, irrespective of what the statistics are saying, because statistics are indicators by its nature. But we also make sure that our environment is also conducive for economy. I think the mayor also touched on it, to say that if we address safety, we create a space where business can flourish. When the business flourishes, it means everyone is working. When everyone is working, the chances of being involved in crime, they also get reduced. And also to make sure that we can integrate our resources. We don't have unlimited resources, all of us, as we are aware. Meaning that we must integrate our resources. So in terms of the government policy, the so-called DDM, I believe somebody will talk about it. But what is important about DDM is that we are required to integrate our resources in terms of planning, implementation, as well as the budgeting. Meaning that if the City of eThekwini has invested on a particular aspect, there is no need for us from national to invest in the same thing. There is no need for the provincial government to invest on the same thing. So we are sharing the burden, if you like. And lastly, obviously, is to make sure that we can boost the confidence of the community that we serve. So in a nutshell, that's what it's all about, is building that foundation for a city to be a safe city, but also vibrant, and a city that can encourage the business to invest in it. Just a snapshot in terms of crime. I'm not sure whether we can pick out the sound if I move away here because my statistics, I'm not going to run through it, but I just wanted to highlight that those are some of if we look at the 17 community reported crimes. So this is ranging from murder to attempted murder, to sexual offenses, to assault, to robbery, to aggravated robbery, up to theft, all the 17 reported crime. But also you must take into cognizance that the recent findings of Stats SA said that at least 30 to 40% of crimes are not reported. Meaning that if that 30% was reported, maybe the figures would be different. But as the Honorable Mayor already indicated, that we do have challenges in some of the station precincts within the City of eThekwini. One of them, obviously, is Inanda, is Durban Central. We have Verelem as well. We have Guamashu in other categories of crime, Umlazi, Pinetown, and I think Phoenix as well. So I'm not going to go through the stats, but I just wanted to give you an indication why this matter is important. If we look at the murder, which is a very, very serious crime. This is only a snapshot focusing on the recent statistics that is released by the minister for the second quarter. But if we look at the entire year, even if you look at the last 5 years, the figures don't change that much. You may find that Inanda is number 1 this quarter, the next quarter is number 2, the next quarter is number 5, then goes back to number 1. So this snapshot is sufficient in terms of that. So you can see the stations that are coming out from the city of eThekwini. Just to have a picture, if you look at the other category in terms of the assault GBH, the crimes such as assault and murder are very serious cases because they affect an individual as a person. So they send fear to you as a normal citizen or resident of a particular city. Hence, it's important to address these kind of crimes. Other crimes you can get away with it, but something that affects you, like hijacking and robbery, it makes you run away from that city or from that street. And this is robbery. Okay, let me go to the policy framework. I'm not going to go through every single thing, but I'm just going to touch things that I feel that are important. We are aware of the NDP in terms of the aspirations, but I just want to focus on the integrated crime and violence prevention strategy, which I'm assuming you are aware. See, technology can trick you, ne? I didn't see that one coming. Okay, I think he's still thinking. So in terms of the policy framework, what is important is that from a government perspective, there's an integrated crime and violence prevention strategy. Why these policy documents? They are very important because they guide us, especially us who work for the government. We are guided by the policies of the government. What the policy stresses is, without going through every single element, is integration. In this particular initiative, there is no way that we can succeed unless we integrate our resources, knowledge, and information. There's just no way. So whether you are an internal stakeholder within the city of eThekwini, or from the province or national, or whether you are business or your community, you have to find yourself within this process. Otherwise, we're not going to win. We must forget. But also very important is the DDM, which I spoke about, that in terms of the government policy, DDM, it stresses the issue of integrating our planning, budgeting, and implementation. That is why summits such as this are very, very important, because we are able to share ideas, but we're also able to reflect in terms of what each person is doing and find a way of integrating our approach in terms of the crime prevention. But we also have a eThekwini Safer City strategy as well, which also is relevant to this particular aspect. There are also other strategies in terms of urban development, but I just highlighted that one that talks to the relevant issue in terms of this particular one. It's about effective policing and crime prevention. I think policing is straightforward because it falls to the law enforcement. But when it comes to crime prevention, then it becomes bigger. Because when you are addressing human settlement, you are also contributing to crime prevention. When you are building the infrastructure or fixing the road, you are also contributing to crime prevention as well. So crime prevention is far bigger than just law enforcement. Then it also is a targeted social crime prevention. This is now addressing the social ills. As the mayor also spoke about, people who are staying in the bridges. If you don't address those things on time, they will become a problem for you in the long term. So whoever is responsible for addressing that issue, it's also a crime prevention issue. Because if you don't, it's going to get at a stage where somebody has to come in, then you get the police, move in, then you have to use tear gas, things that are not necessary. But if you address at that stage, you get a right environment, you move them, you are preventing crime as well. So I want us to understand the crime in a broad sense so that everyone can find himself or herself into the picture. And then obviously our dream is to have a service delivery that is effective, that everyone can enjoy. My gadget takes long to think. We are guided, in terms of the smart city, we are guided by the COCTA or DCOC in terms of the smart city framework. So what we are doing is not outside of the scope of government policies. This is the framework that they gave us. Obviously, if you look at that wheel, which summarizes the framework, you can see that the smart city is a broader concept. There is safety, there is health, there is a green economy, and all those things. Meaning that for us to be a smart city, we have to address safety, but there are also other elements. Meaning that in a smart city, we must breathe fresh air. In a smart city, we must have competent personnel as well. And competence is not about training, it's also about getting the right people from the start. Because remember that if you get wrong people, it doesn't matter how much you train them, they're still not going to help you. It's as simple as that. They're not going to help you. It's like putting a meat into that sausage machine. If you put a poor quality meat, the boerewors is still not going to be a quality boerewors. It doesn't matter what you do. So it's the same principle that applies here. So a smart city needs that quality at all levels. But you also need the community in a smart city, because smart city is about service delivery. And therefore, the community must be part of that process. That is why it's important that when we are having this session, we're also having the community as part of the process. And then obviously you will need a smart plan. You also utilize digital infrastructure, skilled people. You need partnership. I think the mayor has made a very clear call. In fact, the mayor is far ahead of us, because I saw him on TV, because I follow news very closely, with one of I think it was Santam, if I'm not mistaken. And they were committing in terms of the support. And this is what this partnership is all about. It's about everyone. It's not just for national government or provincial or local government, it's for everyone to contribute. And that is the only way we can succeed on this particular one. And then lastly, just to stress that when we talk about the smart city, we're not talking about just buying technology and then you say you achieve a smart city. Yes, it is an enabler. It helps in terms of managing the information, planning better. You have analysts who provide information for you to make a better decision. But it's not about just technology. You still need people to do the work. You still need an officer to patrol the street. Technology will not do that. Well, obviously, maybe you can get a robot police to patrol in Nanda and so on. But at the end of the day, you still need people who are competent and able to do the work. I think that is the point that the framework is saying from COCTA. Now, to give you a picture in terms of this, I refer to it as a theoretical roadmap, just to paint a picture why we are doing this, because we don't just do things from the air. To say that I've spoken about stakeholder mobilization, that everyone must be part of the process. I've spoken about the environmental design, about getting the environment that is appropriate for safety or that is relevant for safety. I've spoken about community in terms of participation, capacity development, the skilling. I've spoken about integrated approach in terms of community safety. All these things are the basic inputs that we must make. But why are we doing it? Or what do we get from out? Then we can address issues, we can reduce crime if we do those things. But why are we doing that? That eventually then will give us a crime-free environment. I know that when you talk about crime-free, people will say there will always be crime. Yes, it's true, but the vision that we must have is that at one day we must have a community where there is no crime. There's a vision that should drive us. It doesn't mean that we'll achieve it in 2 years or 3 years or 5 years, but that vision must be there, that at some stage we want to make sure that no crime is happening in our environment. I think that is why we put it there. Then also we then get the spin-offs in terms of the investment. As I indicated earlier on, that unless you address safety or crime, there is no way that you can get any economic development. There is no way. And I've seen in some other departments as well, they also make that mistake of running ahead with a plan without considering the safety as the critical element. Then they realize at a later stage that they're not going to achieve what they wanted to achieve. Then eventually, if we address all these elements, then we can reduce the triple challenges. I'm sure we all know what are triple challenges: unemployment, poverty, and inequality. Those are the things eventually that we want to address or impact. Then we can eventually have a safe and a vibrant and livable city, or livable cities, if we look at it from nationally. So that's eventually what. So this we can refer to it as, other people refer to it as a theory of change, if you like. Now, if we look at the implementation, obviously we've got a long-term plan, But what I just want to stress here is that it's important that we've got a golden chain from national to province to the local level for us to succeed. So that golden chain, it doesn't matter what we call it, but there must be a direction from province, district, or metros, as well as at a local level. That process, we have to design it, be serious about it in terms of making sure that this is implemented. But if there is no sufficient understanding at different levels in terms of the process, we're still not going to achieve. I'm raising these things so that you can reflect on them when you go to your breakaways and discuss it. This is just to paint a picture. I've also indicated that for us to succeed, this integrated governance will be very, very crucial for all the levels. But we need competent people to do these kind of things. I think we must not shy away from that. We need competent people to do this. And we must find them. And I'm sure they are there. We must find them. Other than that, we won't be able to deliver this kind of program. And unfortunately, we need this kind of intervention if we're going to turn around our city. We need it. From a national perspective, these are the cities that we have prioritized. We see the city of eThekwini, but we also have other cities, Cape Town, Johannesburg, Tshwane, Ekurhuleni, as well as Polokwane in the Limpopo province. In terms of the projections for this roadmap, we're looking at least the 4-year program, starting this year. And the reason why it takes that long, I think you will appreciate that when something involves technology, it becomes complex because technology changes all the time. But also more important, it's important that we assess what we have, because it doesn't mean that we are starting from a clean slate. There is some investment that has happened before in the city. There is a lot of work that has been done, but we still have to take stock of what is there, what are the linkages practically that we can have with other spheres of government, and how do they work? Are they compatible to work together, and so on and so on and so on. But also for the IT specialists to advise us, because the risk with technology is that it's easy to go to the shop and buy it, but you may find that in 6 months it's expired. So you need somebody who is very technologically advanced in terms of where should we invest and what is the right time to invest in terms of that technology. All those things are important when you are dealing with these things. And then obviously we'll run it until 2026. But it doesn't mean that in 2026, then we say we can close the shop. We are not closing the shop. Hence, I'm using the word that we then review the process and take it to the next step. Now, just to run through this process in terms of the plan, the first phase obviously will be the preparatory phase, which is basically meaning that we build the governance structure. Who must do what? I think we have tried that, and I don't think currently we have a fully functional structure that can drive this process. Those that are involved will understand what I'm trying to say. But we need to have a fully functional governance structure. And Mayor will even take it further to say, if we really want to succeed, we need to have a dedicated capacity on this part. If we're really, really serious about it, we need to have somebody who's dedicated, not one person, a dedicated, capable structure that will deal with things on full-time basis, so that we can then demand the results from that structure on daily basis. So the first phase is to set up those things, but also to assess what we have, what works, what doesn't work. I think fortunately we've finalized the MOU with the city from a national perspective, so we are covered in terms of that particular aspect. Still on the preparation is to look at the issues. I'm not going to go through point by point. I just want to give you a picture because the time is limited. Setting those structures, doing the assessment in terms of the requirements. What exactly do we want to fix? We must take that stock. What is it that we want to fix? Because if we don't do a proper stock taking, we may find ourselves starting a project and starting doing things, and only to find that 1 year down the line or two years down the line, some of the investment doesn't really make sense, and then we get embarrassed. I think we don't want to do that. Even the basic things to say, what are our hotspot areas in terms of crime? But also, there may not necessarily be hotspot areas, because remember, prevention is not about dealing with the crime. It's about saying, maybe you may say, this particular area is visited by more tourists, and therefore it's important, but it may not necessarily have crime. But also you may say this is a taxi rank, so there are like 500,000 people that goes through that place. So it's important, but it may not necessarily be a hotspot. So that assessment has to be done, and it needs time to be done. Once that has been done, then you can have a reliable and a robust plan that you can utilize going forward. Then when it comes to the implementation, it's going to go in through 4 phases. As I said, the first phase is to look at the linkage of the systems, the assessment of what is there, what works. We find that in some of the cities they will have CCTV, but some of them are not working. Others will have these cameras on the street, but they are not working, but they are there. So we have to assess what is there. Is it still relevant? Is it working? Does it need to be fixed or needs to be replaced? It's quite a big program, this one I'm talking about. So this will be the first phase. Then the second phase, we are saying that at least, based on our assessment, at least, this is a minimum, bare minimum that we can achieve, that we have 50% at least covered. Assuming we've identified all our problem areas in the entire city, we are saying at least 50%, we must be confident that 50% is covered. If, for instance, we're saying is the Ink, and maybe we say Umlazi and Pinetown on the south, those areas that we have agreed must be covered at least. This is taking us to 2024. So it's a realistic and achievable target, I think, Honorable Mayor, to achieve. So that's what we are saying there. And then also we talk about the integration of the E2, which I think will form part of DC Mchunu as well. We have the E2. I'm not sure whether the station commanders are aware of the E2. E2 is basically our initiative with the private security industry. As I indicated that we are trying, I think, as much as possible that everyone plays a role. So private security industry are on board in terms of assisting us as eyes and ears in terms of this process. So I think we visualize a future where they can also be part of the integrated command center so that we can take advantage of the resources that they have. Because believe it or not, they have more resources than us, the private security industry. Then phase 3, we are saying then we'll move to 70% of whatever areas that we would have identified. That will take us to mid-24 to the end of 2024. And then also we start strengthening our linkage with the technology. I think the idea is that once we integrate this technology for different, whether it's private security industry, whether it's the city, whether it's SAPS, etc., we are able to make the city of Thekwini controllable because we can control everything here with us. We can say, oh, something is happening in Verelem. We can respond quicker. If we can see that there's a private security a car that is there, we can utilize it. If there is SAPS, if there is Metro, and so on and so on. So that is the integration that we are talking about. Then also the establishment of the research. So by the third phase, the research must be established. And the research is very, very important because things change. Sometimes you get a sense that criminals are getting more clever than us. And we cannot allow that sitting here, that criminals are ahead of us. So we need just research, but we also have our own intelligence. But the research will tell us in terms of the developments, whether we are still relevant or whether we're responding to the right things. And then obviously the intelligence will advise us in terms of the operational side of business. So this is also part of that. Then the last phase in terms of implementation is our 100%. So by the end of 2025, we must then cover the entire city. These are just estimated projections in terms of the timeframes. But if we move quicker, we can say by 2023, we're doing everything, we are sorted. And if we have the resources for that as well. And then obviously, as part of that, as I said, that is not just about policing, but we also have to address issues of homelessness, human settlement, etc., etc. Why these issues are important is because if we want to build a safer city, we need to address potential threats in advance. So in other words, people who are homeless, for instance, there is that risk. It doesn't mean that you're homeless, you become a criminal. That is, but you can also become a victim. So the idea is that we identify all the potential threats and address them in advance. And that's how we can make sure that our city is as safe as possible. Then lastly, then is a review of the program, which is basically is a closing of the program by 2026. And then at that point, then we can do a reflection, sit like this, we take stock, we get the reports, and then we decide to say, okay, what is the next step now? Are we starting a new phase, or are we saying now, this has now become part of our process, our day-to-day business, we don't need a focused attention on this particular aspect. And then by that time, then our city should be perfect. Remember, we are chasing 2030, which is not far away. It's just around the corner. Just to summarize what I've just said, so that I can finish, this is basically, we'll cover our milestones in terms of the long process. The first phase is preparation, and then we'll run that implementation up to the end of 2025. Then by 2026, we'll then close. Obviously, in between, there will be monitoring and evaluation on continuous basis. I must indicate that we already have a steering committee which is chaired by the mayor himself. And I think the mayor has been frustrated in terms of the progress, I must indicate to you, so that you are aware as you work on this thing that we should be far ahead in terms of the process. So this is basically to summarize the timelines as I indicated from 22, and then we run those phases, 23, 22, 23. We go up to phase 22, end of 2024 financial year, phase 3 up to 2025, by 26 we're done. But these are the projections and estimations. They need boots on the ground to happen, not literally boots because it's police officers, but they need action to be implemented and commitment in terms of time and resources to make sure that things become a reality. In terms of the focus areas, as you can see that it goes beyond that. Obviously, there is information technology, which will look at the research in terms of IT developments, look at the operability in terms of the linkages and how the systems can be integrated. And then we have the operations in terms of the smart policing. I think DC will speak about it at a later stage. Looking at the ICC, Integrated Command and Control Center in full, looking at the mobile technology, the CCTV, the drones policing, the E2 integration, as well as deployment and training. That deployment is important because part of reducing crime is also visibility. But we believe that the technology will make that visibility easier if it's implemented at the right place and properly. And then also as part of crime prevention is infrastructure and environmental design. This is talking to bad buildings, environment, the bylaws, whether it's traffic lights, whether it's road, and so on and so on. So these are all the elements that are part of the program. And then also is the social crime prevention. You can call it in different way, but it's looking basically on the social ills or the threats to crime, whether it's homelessness, substance abuse, GBV, which still remains an issue, as you saw on the figures in terms of sexual offenses or rape in particular. Inanda is still #1 for wrong reasons in terms of that. Whether it's youth matters, in some areas, young people, they complain that there is nothing to do in some of the areas. As a result, they find themselves exposed to criminality. Community participation or mobilization, meaning that we need to make sure that all the community structures are functional. But what is important is that those structures are sort of kind of integrated, because we'll find that we tend to do a lot of things, but because we are not integrated properly, most cases, we don't see the real impact of what you exactly are doing. So we need to make sure that our CSFs are fully functional, but they also should understand what is their mandate. Because sometimes we create these structures and the only work that we do is meetings. Then we say, yeah, no, we are working because we're having meetings every month. But that's not being functional. They need to understand what is the mandate and deliver in terms of that. As the mayor said, I like what he said, if they are not doing, you fire them. Get another people who are prepared to work. I think that is the only way we can really make a change. And then the school safety as well. We still have issues around the school safety, which we are quite aware. I think it happened in this province. I think it's in Wandengezi, where the police went to that school to do some search. As soon as they leave, according to the news, I'm not sure whether that is factual, then the kids, they ban the school or they ban some part of the school and so on and so on. So those are the things that we need to address. We cannot avoid them. We cannot run away from them. We need to have a clear program, not a random intervention where you come in when you have time. We need to have a consistent program to address those issues. That's the only way you can solve them. And lastly is the research and development, which focusing on the city lab, whereby you look at the community safety assessing. Remember, we spoke about addressing the feeling of safety. This is where it comes in. Where now you must ask the residents, how do you feel about walking on West Street? What is West? Did we change the name for West Street? What is it called now? You can see I'm old, ne? You can see I'm very old. I'm still in the apartheid names. So these one are talking to that feeling of safety to the community. How do you feel? What do you want us to change? And so on and so on. As well as Data Hub. Data Hub was not part of the initial plan, but it was launched. I happened to be part of that launch, hence I'm mentioning here. It is very, very relevant and is a very progressive move from the city. So all this will be overseen by the technical committee, whatever we want to call it, to make sure that the process is coordinated and there's proper accountability to the relevant structures in terms of the leadership. In terms of the implementation, just some few headlines. I think I've touched on them. We have an MOU completed and signed off in place, so we have a legal documents to start working properly. We also have a technical committee, as I indicated, but in my mind is not functional at the level where it should be, but it's something that we will find a way of addressing as we're going forward. We have a steering committee established. At least that one is chaired by the mayor, so the mayor is directing in terms of that process. The planning was initiated, but I think we still need to do a proper scoping. Hence, I indicated that we need to do a detailed assessment in terms of our hotspot areas, where we want to focus and so on, and agree on it. Then we can let the implementers to go into the field and implement what's required. The integrated command center was also established and opened, but it's also not fully functional, which in terms of some of the issues that we need to look at. Obviously, when you are running a program such as this for those, it's a dynamic process. You cannot have a one size fits all. You have to constantly reflect and adjust according. So it's not different from other programs. I think in terms of the operational deployments, that process is working fine. But for us to realize the goals that we have set ourselves, we need to have a strong system how we assess that impact. We must have a system of measuring those successes. We should not just be working for the sake of working. Because if we don't know whether we are succeeding, we'll never know whether we need to invest more resources or we need to reduce them. So that process is important and we need to work on. And then the smart policing concept, I think is done. The DC will present it at a later stage. I think in terms of this one, we had hoped that we will be piloting it earlier than it is. I think there is some delay in terms of when we started the process, but I think it's not all lost and done. Now that the concept is there, we should be able to progress with that one. POCC, I think it's in place. The radio control, I think, is also in place. I'm not sure whether the integration is fully implemented, but I think the facilities and the resources are there in terms of that. And then lastly is the strategic data hub, which I spoke about, which was launched some few months ago, is in place. It was not part of the plan, but is relevant in terms of supporting the work going forward. I think I'm concluding. In conclusion, I just want to stress the point that I've touched on very strongly to say that integration is important. Unless we crack this integration, we're not going to succeed. We must forget. And there are reasons for that. Also, I want to stress that crime is a social matter, not just a policing matter, and therefore we want to appeal and also to support what the mayor said in terms of the stakeholders, that everyone, the hands must be on the deck, whether it's business, whether it's community, whether you're a committee leader or just ordinary member of the committee, you need to contribute to this process. But also the internal members, whether you're at the provincial, at the city level or national, it's important that you see yourself as part of role players in terms of achieving the safer city that we want to achieve. So if you are part of that tourism, you need to play your role. You are part of human settlement, play your role. You are part of education department, play your role as well. You are part of business, also play your role as well in terms of this. And that's the only way we can crack it. I also want to stress that Safer City is one of very, very important projects. It's a very, very important project. As I indicated, that we can easily address the triple challenges that I spoke about, at least within the city precincts. If we can achieve that, then we can be a model for other cities. Also, lastly, Safer Cities is one of those, I call it legacy projects, because if we implement it fully and properly, I think it will redefine and change the entire image of the city for many generations to come. So I just want to invite that we all contribute in terms of ideas, in terms of the knowledge, in terms of the experience, but also in terms of the resources to make sure that we can achieve this target. Thank you very much, Program Director.
Thank you very much to Major General Matonzi. Niyabona ukuthi all the things that people usually say about police, just one speech by the Major General takes them all out of your minds. You can see that police are serious thinkers, they are serious strategists, and when they put a program or a thought across, it's well thought through, and it has an intention in mind. So, lokhu esihlale sikuzwa ukuthi amaphoyisa azofika kubambe ahambe nawo sewukhuluma phambili. Nibona uMajor General nje mekhuluma uyabona nje umuntu ohlakazekile la phezulu, umuntu ocabangayo, umuntu one thinking far reaching, so kususa konke lokho abantu abacabangayo mebekhuluma. Siyabonga sengathi ningaqhubeka nikwenze lokhu ukuze ubugebengu behle bushone phansi. We're now going to move forward and welcome Professor Dikela Majuqwana, who is going to join us online. I hope ngicela bamfake khona sobona ngempela kuyangeneka. Professor Majuqwana, I think, has been listening to the Major General as he was delivering his talk. He is basically a managing director of GPI Corporation, which is a company specializing in project development and strategic management advisory. And this is based in Johannesburg. He has been on a contract at the University of Zululand between March 2022 and October 2022. And prior to that, he worked as a project director for GPI Corp, focusing on project origination in the water, energy, and manufacturing sector. And in addition to that, management consulting. He's got 30 years of experience as a teacher in mechanical engineering courses in various universities to undergraduates and postgraduates, students in South Africa and abroad, and is also served in that industry. I would like to welcome Professor Dikela Majuqwana. Hopefully he is listening to me. Good morning, Professor.
Yes, good morning. Good morning. Thank you.
The podium is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The Honorable Mayor, I must thank you for this invitation as well as your staff and the delegates. I have in the past been involved, I think in May this year, in one of the summits organized by the province to do with the reduction of crime, which was, I think, part of an exercise in national mobilization taking place in the KZN province. At that time, I was at the University of Zululand, and I spoke at that meeting. So this is my second participation in the local events in KZN. So I'm part of the community there, very much part of it, even though I am now in Johannesburg. So in a way, for me, it feels like welcome home. Following on the footsteps of the general who just spoke before me now, I would like to say all protocol observed. Very briefly, I will sum up my topic, which will be very brief because the general has covered a lot of the relevant things that I thought of mentioning, including significantly his mentioning of the idea of a strategic data hub, which he says is in place. So my talk will be very brief, and it will be to reinforce that perspective of the utilization of quality data for purposes of decision making, in particular for planning and prediction of future crimes. Looking at the present crime situation in South Africa right now, it is not getting any better. I do not know, I've not had an appraisal of the effectiveness of current systems. Are they making a difference? At what cost? Are they failing? Why? I think many conversations what are the problems, what are the gaps, and attempt to close those gaps. So with that opening remark, I just want to caution that our enthusiasm to rush to planning may blind us or prevent us from seeing opportunities to improve the situation of crime with minimum or available resources. I just want to caution that. I've come from the project background as a project engineer. We utilize crime prevention strategies very much, but people will be wondering why engineers involved in crime prevention should be criminologists and lawyers here, or psychologists. But no, engineering solutions can help resolve some of the issues, in particular when it comes to appraisals, but also in designing effective solutions. In the project environment, the project, or rather crime prevention is a necessity, it's not a choice. Because project can fail or they can be delayed or get sabotaged because of organized criminals or other people who, on the face of it, they don't look like criminals. They are other businesses like ours. But their intention is to make a profit by way of utilizing methods that are both extra-legal and illegal, using pressure on employees, trying to sabotage, organizing strikes outside of the legal rules, including direct sabotage or theft of equipment and even threat to staff. So that is why then our perspective on crime prevention and community facilitation is very much, or rather the two are closely connected in our approach to project development. But the kind of projects that we get involved in are crucial projects for the country's well-being, in particular to do with reinforcing infrastructure safety as well as developing new infrastructures and systems. Very much there's a growing tendency now to strip physical facilities, to cut cables, to remove equipment such as pumps, transformers, and electrical connections of equipment, as well as theft of valuable items such as fuels and computers, and as well as cyber crime. These are very serious crimes that are not going down. Sometimes it's as if the invention of the internet and the social media was intended for criminals because they are thriving. I don't want to say that people are up against an impossible enemy, but criminals are thriving and they're becoming more inventive, and they can use these methods, or rather these technologies, to communicate more effectively and to collaborate to deliver blows against society. I think a lot of people know about cybercrime, and it's a major problem that I think, because it looks dignified, we ignore it. We focus on easy to identify crimes, and of course they are serious enough, such as violent crime. But economic crimes such as cybercrime are so severe that they can bring down the economy of a country. This is an aspect that I think the smart city idea should not ignore. It's a very important strategic area of anti-crime prevention to engage in conscientizing people on methods to deal with cybercrime, and also to popularize, or rather to build up awareness about the most, or rather the prevailing risks that people are now facing. I will not go over those. Mine is intended to be a very brief presentation. And so, when we come to crime, I mean, from an engineering perspective, from a lawyer's perspective, you know, there are a lot of laws passed by Parliament. There's a pile of them, volumes of them, and lawyers make a lot of money from these laws, representing us in court, and in many situations, many people don't even understand or have never read the crimes that they are told they committed. You don't have to have read a legal document to know that killing a person is wrong, but it's also a severe crime. This may sound like a passing comment. Just this morning, I took an Uber vehicle to the office, and I had a conversation with this young man. He told me that he is from eThekwini. He served at Westfield Prison. He was sentenced to 23 years, but he served only 11. Why? He had been involved in a violent crime. There he was working as a taxi driver, and as a group of taxi drivers, they decided to drive to the Eastern Cape to rob Spa, one of the towns there. And as they carried out this operation, one of the guys decided they must kill the lady they found there, the people they found there. And he was the only one who stopped to try to stop them from doing so, and managed to save one of the ladies. And so he was sentenced to 23, but after 11 years, he was released. And today he's working as a security guard. And working as a security guard, I asked him, why did you do this? No, he says, look, I was born in a family where my mother was, I don't know my father. I was brought up by my mother and my grandmother. But in this case, I knew that what we were doing was wrong, but I got carried on by friends, and in the excitement of the moment, we took our guns and went to do this thing. And as it happened, my colleagues are still serving long sentences in prison, but I was saved because I saved this woman and prevented the guys from killing the woman. Now, what happened here? From a legal perspective, I think the lawyers know what to say. But from a technical point of view, we have what we call system failure. This is very often crimes happen not because people are intentional criminals, but because they share certain habits which drive them to undermine the very systems, or rather, which drive them to do things that they are able to do because the systems that protect them, criminals, not victims, do not work. They have failed. Because in this case, they are employees. When employees decide to go and execute a crime, the question is, do employers organize do they make efforts to detect or to create awareness against crime amongst employees? This is a big question. It's a huge question. And I think, I don't have the statistics, but in my experience, I have not heard of measures other than what is called ethical business, or rather business ethics. That was the training that we were given. In the days when I used to work for industry, they would instruct us in business ethics, but they would not come out openly against criminal behavior. Now, I think that is a serious weakness. Perhaps this is something that needs a review. But more than that, if we are to build up a data conscious, or rather a data based crime prevention system within the agenda of a smart city, we need to source data and to be able to process it and to make it available to decision makers to design measures to prevent future crimes. The sources of data typically from the victim side is the direct victims themselves and indirect victims such as family and friends. And I think I can cite several examples that we come across when we do projects where we find many people have been victims of crime, and now some of them, they ask us, should they build a wall to protect themselves from crime? Because a neighbor has had a break-in. Now, whether you build a wall, if a wall is going to protect you or not, is questionable and debatable. But South Africa is a fortress society, and we know walls are everywhere. But my advice is often do not build a wall. Because the impression of building a wall is as if you are inviting a criminal. On the offender side, of course, there is plenty of data in the prisons themselves, in the relations of the offenders and the friends and accomplices of the offenders. But that data is very often not readily available. I think I talked to a lot of the people who run the prisons in Johannesburg, the local prisons not far from us here in Branston. And we talk to the guys there very often. And this data is rich and it is with them. And the people who execute, the offenders who execute these crimes, come from all over the country in Johannesburg. Some come from Durban, KZN, Eastern Cape, you name it. And some from outside of South Africa. And the ones who come from outside of South Africa, you do not have background records from family members and things like that. And then, of course, other sources of this data are with the institutions themselves, such as the police, who also, by the way, seem to be active criminals these days, and they are able to use the criminal justice systems to hide their activities there. And another very rich source is the hospitals, because especially for violent crime, hospitals have to end up receiving the victims of crime. And one can, I don't know how often people make use of the records there, but hospital records also show social behavior such as the use of alcohol and drugs. You know, it was interesting during COVID that hospitals, apparently they were recording less visits by casualties of crime. So, because people were not moving around that often. But that said, hospitals are an important source of criminal data, especially for both victims and the perpetrators themselves, but in particular the victims. And of course, employers. Employers are an underutilized resource in the fight against crime. I think the view by employers tends to be that, you know, if they employ a security guard at the gate, they are more or less safe from crime, which may be true. But they are not safe as soon as they leave the offices and are out there in the shopping mall or in the street. You know, everybody's exposed to crime. And then in that context, a lot of people who are, especially those who are in professional roles, find themselves being hijacked, and it turns out that criminals trace them from the workplace. You know, they are in contact with people in various workplaces so that they know who owns what car, where those people stay, you know, the times when they leave the office, and then they get followed and their property gets taken away from them. And of course, community members. Now, community members is a very difficult scenario there because we have a very huge nomadic population of informal settlers from inside the country and from outside the country, given our porous borders, dangerously porous borders, southern borders, to the point where we have to ask very serious questions as to why border control is so lax in South Africa, given the massive risks that it exposes the country to, not just to crime, but also to diseases. Because if people visit the country unchecked at the border, they can bring all kinds of diseases. Disease control, or rather border control, is very much part of both crime control and disease control. But why we're lax in this space is anybody's guess. But communities located close to the border and those in major cities are particularly exposed to the risk of people from outside, but lately even rural communities. So that such that mobilization of communities, in particular, to build a consciousness of the measures that are needed to achieve some degree of control over criminal events, or at least at the rate at which they happen. So community development is very much an important aspect of this, and a very challenging one, because informal settlements are appearing everywhere now in South Africa. Right now, there's one not far from here, on one of the main roads next to a suburb. It suddenly appeared, shacks are growing there. And what we're getting, the municipality has put up a post there that says crime hotspot. That's what the massive signpost says there. And the question, crime hotspot, but the crime is from this shack. The guys come from there and they do smash and grab and things like that. So you have this kind of thing. I think what eThekwini municipality is doing, I hope, Mr. Mayor, Comrade Mayor, your message and your initiative is copied by other major cities, that cities give leadership on crime prevention, in particular the metros, and in particular, to deal with early signals of crime, to prevent this thing from growing and engulfing us. It is perhaps coming from a project perspective, again, we're available to help municipalities with solutions where quick and easy to erect and cheap, in fact, human settlements can be set up temporary, very quick, and they can be serviced very quick, because people, I mean, if you say to me you're projecting people will stay in a place for a period of 1 year, well, that's probably no need. But very often people are there for 5 years and the next 10 years. And now the children who get born there, the chances are these children are easy to recruit into crime. And so coming back to the community, criminal or rather community development within the context of crime prevention and social cohesion, it is key that communities become aware, especially new communities that like informal settlements, that they are targeted, not displaced, but helped to manage the development of crime amongst these people, because these are not people who are necessarily criminals themselves, but criminals take advantage of their environment, and themselves perhaps they become victims of crime. They are in need of protection. That don't require much investment in technology and over-skilled people, high qualifications, you name it. In our conception, there are 4 steps or 4 stages or 4 phases in crime prevention strategy. It is prevention itself, which engages a early detection of signals, gathering of data, and identification and of likely risky areas or risky behaviors such as alcohol use, drug use, especially amongst youngsters. The earlier, the better. The young kids in primary schools, in the secondary school, by the time they get to tertiary, they are already predisposed what kind of crime they are likely to commit. So the early stages of prevention as well as in the community in an integrated fashion, as very much as the general has laid it out in his plan. And then the next stage, of course, is early detection of criminal events once they happen. Now, very often when I was once attacked myself by criminals and I fought to the death there. But it was my own business, talking about this thing to police, no one was interested. Doctor was just interested in healing the harm. But there is no way of documenting and finding out the source of the criminals who did this. I was never debriefed by anybody. So there are serious weaknesses in the current crime prevention system at prevention as well as at detection. And then the next thing, of course, once a crime happens, the person may be arrested, or there may be a victim who requires protection, but there is not a lot of activity in protecting victims of crime, as well as criminals themselves, protecting them from repeating the same crime. But we need statistics to back this up. And this is just a framework that we utilize in our project development process. And then, of course, once people are they've been sentenced, others they are recovering from suffering from trauma, recovering, etc. The process of saving people in the prisons, I think they employ a corrective system there, and successes of the system, like the gentleman I spoke to just this morning, as a security guard, an exemplary guy. He tells me, from what I can detect, and others that I know of. But there are others who are never saved. They come back and they repeat the crimes and they go back to the system. And again, the data is not consolidated. You hear reports from the Department of Police will report, what do they call it? Safety of Police. Department of Police, Minister Kele will report his own statistics. Prisons, I've not heard them report, but they do report their own statistics. But again, the formulation of these statistics, from the point of view of decision making, to reduce criminality and bring it to within manageable levels. And I don't know if we have legally defined. We're talking about reducing crime, but to what level? What is reduced crime? What does reduced crime? What does that mean? We don't know. But I would presume we are talking about statistics that are incidental, or rather very rare when it comes to violent crime and other serious crimes. But standards needs to be very clear in this process. And I trust that the initiative by the previous speaker, the general, will actually take us some way in the province as well as in the country into actually developing this area into a discipline of capturing the social statistics of crime, etc., for purposes of improving the condition of society, and to make them more explicit and to make the reporting much more standard than it is at the moment, because each institution seems to be reporting these statistics using its own frameworks. There is no standard, sector framework within the security industry. Even the private industry, private sector is very big, and they make money from crime because we're building walls and we're subscribing to them. So I don't know if they're interested in reducing crime. My suspicion is that they would like some crime to be there for them to make profits. So I think, trusting, of course, they are partners in fighting this thing, but I'm not so sure that they will go all the way. But that said, that's something that for debate. But I don't know what statistics would come from that sector. Perhaps one should add them as one of the sources of criminal data, the private police, the private security sector, because in my listing here, I completely lost sight of them. I mentioned only the legal police, but not the private security. But I think they're an important source of data, and especially in helping deal with criminals, active criminals. But I don't know in prevention if they're an active force. Of course, seeing a security guard, criminals don't fear security guards. I think I've seen many of them commit these things in front of security guards. And security guards simply run for their lives. And so, that said, what then do we do? Taking again my cue from the previous speaker, I think the idea of a smart city would be, in respect to social cohesion and a safer city, would be better served by a much more consolidated statistical center or office. Perhaps that is linked to the national Stats SA, some divisions of it, but statistics for Stats SA are enumerative statistics, which basically are accountings of what is there or what they think is there. There's many women, many fathers, they count people. But I'm now talking in the context of statistics, analytical statistics for decision making, that if we take measure A, this is the change that we are likely to see, right? That change, we can formulate it, and is within our scheme or framework of predictions that the different measures that we are taking are intended to produce certain anticipated changes. These statistics, Stats SA statistics, don't have that kind of thinking. But city statistics in the metros in particular, I believe should be informed by the perspective of risk reduction and improving decision making, as well as the processes that we employ. So to conclude, a very brief presentation. I must apologize for this. If I've stretched it a little bit, processes, because much of this, as the general said earlier on, much of these things need to be done in a disciplined way. There are in the manufacturing sector, in engineering, what is often called, I think the Japanese call it continuous improvement or Kaizen. And these processes have now been used in various sectors, including governmental systems. And I think within the policing sector, especially the proposal that I'm now making, is to organize the statistical center within this continuous improvement philosophy, so that it is not a matter of demanding results, but it is a matter of testing and working with processes that we believe will serve us or will proven them they are capable of serving us well. Because it's often said that, very intelligent people, they can be intelligent as individuals, but they cannot be more intelligent than the process that they are working or system that they are working in. And I think this is very true. We can see this in so many of our situations in our country right now, in politics, in business, you name it. We're squabbling. I don't know where it comes from. But that said, to reinforce the previous speaker, I'm very pleased with that, with the way he put it. I'm looking forward to talking to him with possibly, to learning and see if we can encourage other municipalities and metros to join and partner with that effort and to pool resources, in particular from the point of view of developing common processes. That said, Mr. Mayor, because see my battery is about to give up. That's how long I've been talking. I must again thank you for this invitation, and I must again give my support, my full support to this initiative, very innovative initiative that I believe is taking us in the right direction, and that the city of eThekwini will sooner or later become a model for other cities in the country in this direction. We need it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Tikela
Am I being heard?
Majukwana. Thank you very much for your input. We have identified certain themes from your input, which during the sessions, the different thematic sessions, we will work on and build on. One of them, I think, is the emphasis on information for decision making. I think you are strong on that point, and also on pulling down the boundaries that we build around our homes, so that we do not attract security to our places. We'll take forward some of those thoughts and see if we can infuse them into our strategies going forward. And thank you for waiting for connection so long. We're now going to take a break. We'll take a 20 minutes break as per program. It's 12:15 now, which means around 12:30, I will call you back. Back to the session, and then we'll take the next session up to lunch. Can we please try and be as fast as possible? 15 to 20 minutes, and then we'll come back for the second session. Thank you. Let's give them, all the speakers, a round of applause. Thank you very much.